Welcome everyone to the RealNex webinar series. I am Jeff Finn, joined by Matthew Smith, and today we are focused on a process-driven approach to winning business and closing deals, and certainly it will lead to profits, but the focus is on the process, and that'll lead to the results. So thanks for joining us. As always, we're delighted to have you here. We're going to go about a half hour, take Q&A, and we will have a recording of this to share with you. So if you miss anything, you want to refer back or share it with your team, you'll have access to that. So today we're going to focus on a few things, a few key items to drive your process. It starts with timelines, building timelines for business development, to nurture prospects and opportunities, to manage them through until you're engaged, then turning those opportunities into deals and running those deals through completion. So the complete workflow from prospecting and business development through transaction execution, you can map out and process in what RealNex delivers as a detailed workflow that you can customize and build to make your own. And that all helps to support your client reporting. So as you're implementing and delivering to your plan, you're able to swiftly generate your client reports and keep them informed so they understand all the value that you create. You can even use the timeline as part of your business development process to showcase all the good work that you're going to do for your client, and then to use the reporting to show that you've done it and to maintain clients for life. So Matt's going to take us into it. I will turn the screen over to him, and great to have you all with us. Here you go, Matt.
Thanks so much, as always, Jeff, and I'll try to get as close to my microphone as possible. And just so everybody knows, I only had 3 rock stars, a Red Bull, and 14 coffees today, so hopefully I won't go too fast. To make sure that everybody's paying attention, you are going to hear me say every once in a while, please raise your hands. I'd like to get some more engagement on this call if possible, so we can really make sure we're fine-tuning things. Jeff and I were just talking a few minutes ago about ebb and flow. And that's kind of where timelines are really going to help us get into gear, because there's a lot of times that we're in a process and the process changes, whether it's something that has changed on a deal that you had in escrow, or it's changed on the lease, or tenant is defaulted on their lease, or something changes and you get busy. And timelines can really keep you on track with your day-to-day, so you have less peaks and valleys and you more have a straight portion. So we really want to talk about establishing a business development pipeline with projects. And you've heard me a million times talk about having a playbook or an SOP. It's really important to kind of write some of those things down. So as you notice, my screen might look a little bit different than yours. One thing that we've done recently, and it's super powerful, is to create layouts. Now on here, I have a tenant layout that I have for my lease expiration for a current lease that they were in. They're no longer in that lease anymore. The lease expired on 5/6 of 2024. But I knew their requirements, and the requirements went from 1,200 square feet to 20,000 square feet, and we were able to find that tenant some space. Now, the way that I can follow up with that tenant, because we knew their lease commenced on 1998. Now, I might not have had that information at that time. I wasn't around in 1998. However, a timeline can help you establish, so you're getting in front of people 18 months before their lease expires, or maybe you're getting in front of people 2 years before their note expires on their loan, and that's where creating that timeline is really going to help you out. It also can be used for business development. It can be used for sale and lease. It can be used for anything. So how do I create a timeline? There's a couple ways to create a timeline in our program, and there's a couple ways that you can add a timeline. So let's go for this example here. Setting these different stages and events, we might want to set in here, and I'm just going to put a number in here. We're going to say it's going to be 7/1 of 2028. So that's when my client's lease expire. Actually, not my client, just someone that lease expires here. If you click on events within our program, what you can do now is you can go over here and say schedule timeline. If you don't have a timeline already created, don't worry. I'll show you exactly how to create one. But now what we can do is we can say schedule timeline. Now in here, it's a 5-year lease renewal, or as Jeff mentioned before, it's a business development timeline. You see here, I have quite a few timelines. Investment sales for buying, investment sales for selling, landlord rep, pipeline build and manage, pipeline building and management, post-transaction, 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 and I have many more. Now, if you don't have any timelines within inside of your program, don't worry. What I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and click this little I. Don't do it while we're on the call here today, because again, I want to make sure you're following along. Everybody said, can you slow down so we can follow along? But I don't want you to go here and create this. Just simply click on any one of these timelines. So since we're talking about winning business and closing transactions, a profit-driven approach, I like what Jeff mentioned there before, you can click on pipeline building and management. When you do, it's going to bring up a warning. It does contain bright flashing lights. Our automatic system will create a timeline for you, and it will guide you through exactly how to do that. Now, you can create a timeline on anything. I was talking to a client, international client last night, and they told me that their favorite sports team was the Browns, the Cleveland Browns. And I let them know that if they wanted to, they can create a timeline to manage the Cleveland Browns so that everybody in their office, they have 22 brokers in their office, all know that you're out watching the Cleveland Browns that day using a timeline. So you can use a timeline for anything. And what a timeline is going to do is it's going to create a series of events like this one for leasing. It is also going to create and can tie to a person. It can tie to a company, it can tie to a property, it can tie to a space, anything within inside of our system, including a listing. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to see those activities on the contact. Also, it'll allow you to see that on a project. So if you're working on filling a space and you have a project, or you're working on a property for sale and you're working on a project, it'll tie there automatically, so it puts it in two places. It'll also allow you to uncheck. So if you want to uncheck any of these activities, a template for the timeline is standard, but not every timeline is going to be identical. So you might want to simply just go ahead and change and uncheck those boxes for that timeline. And then you'll hit next and you'll hit finish. When you go ahead and hit finish, you can drag and drop and move them around as well. So we added a drag and drop editor. And so this allows you to, we want to begin search for new space down here, or we want to move it up, or we just want to take it out altogether. You can do that even after you've created that timeline right in there. We've also added the ability for you to go ahead and print the timeline. So if you click on timeline view, you can now print that timeline. Now my timeline is once a year, so my Gantt chart in here is not super graphical. But if you have quite a few items that are in there and they're pretty tight, which you can see here, it's starting to build that Gantt chart, okay? Now I can go in here and I can move up and down inside there, but you can see in here it's starting to build a Gantt chart for you, which really, again, can help you establish that business development process for you. Once you go ahead and do that, now you can synchronize with your Outlook, it can synchronize with your Gmail, but all those events will show up underneath the contact, underneath the company. It'll also show in your dashboard, so every day that you come in, you're able to manage that process. So as we get busy throughout our day, we don't come back in and go, well, what do we need to do? Or I forgot to do that, or what's happening tomorrow, or even prepping the night before, because we come in and we can see down here based upon this line for the graphical line, it is part of a timeline. And you can click on here and you can actually see that timeline that it's part of. So then you can see all of them. I'll also show you something that's really neat. Is not only to be able to create that Gantt chart to show everybody of what you typically do for them on a tenant assignment, or what you do for them on a buy assignment, or what you do when you're listing a property. There's also a timeline report that you can show all the activities that have been completed, and you can show a report for all your marketing activities, including sign calls and so forth. So we want to set those stages and events so they automatically remind us. We might get busy and forget, holidays come around and so forth, but then it's going to remind us that we need to call our A clients that day. We're going to need to execute a listing agreement, review LOIs, and compare and analyze offers. So this will allow us to complete each one of those in there. And you can see here, it can link to not only a contact, a company, but also a project pipeline. So that's one way you can really start to manage that process-driven approach to winning business. So establishing that business development pipeline with projects is another way to do it. So projects is a really important portion within inside of our program. And projects are going to be right here. Okay, it kind of looks like a washing machine. So if you just click on projects here, this will bring a section within inside of our program, and it's probably one of the most powerful and easy to use sections within our system. So remember, we're utilizing the timeline so we can go out and we can make sure we're following up with tenants, we're following up with our cadence for prospecting and so forth, because the last thing we want to do is say, hey Biz, it's Matt, your lease expires tomorrow. Well, they've probably been contacted by their brokers with a relationship, and you're probably not going to win that assignment. So again, we can do that. But when you go ahead and you click on projects, it's going to be able to pull up a section in here, and you can manage anything from deals that are for sale, for lease, tenant rep, buyer rep. Maybe you do development or lending. You can create as many different types in here as you want within inside of our program. Now, projects are a placeholder. It's a place that you can go ahead and you can keep track of things. Maybe it's going to be lead buckets, right? Maybe it's going to be something that you want to keep track of your timelines and attach it to that. So you make sure you're making those, 400 phone calls a day or 4 phone calls or whatever you want to do. So then you're going and you're managing those engagements with everybody that's within inside of your system. One of the things that I love to teach, and I think a lot of people forget to do it, is tracking their pitches. So what I like to do is I like to create a project called seller pursuits. You can call it landlord pursuits, tenant pursuits, whatever it's going to be. I simply come to the right-hand side and I hit add new, and I name my project. And my project is going to be named based upon what I'm doing. Maybe it's going to be 50,000 office in East Lake Chula Vista. Maybe it's going to be tenant pitches or anything like that. That's going to be my project. Now, what's really neat about that is we can simply come over here and we can click that leads button, and now I can see where all my efforts are starting to go to. So remember, the timelines are going to be able to keep you up to date of when you need to call people. And some of you on this call know exactly who I am, and I call you in a certain cadence, and I use timelines to do that and to help me out with that. You're also going to be able to create lead pursuit buckets. So as you're going through and you're contacting these clients, whether it's for a listing pitch or it's a tenant assignment or something like that, if you create a project and you call it, buy side or sell side or tenant pitches, you're able to then keep track and move them along through the different buckets. Okay, so initial meeting to working on valuation, from valuation to presented valuation to valuation agreed upon. And you can see the ideas that go from the initial meeting all the way down to the opportunity under contract. It shows a percentage, and you can also change the colors that are inside of here. So it's that easy, it's literally dragging and dropping to move from bucket to bucket to bucket. You can also change the profitability as you move down the pipeline. So as you're moving these down and down and down, you can change your profitability from, say, a 5% probability of you winning the assignment to a 15, to a 25, to a 30, to a 40, to a 50. Okay, you can make these any color you want. You don't have to make them red. You can make them red to green. You can make them blue, yellow. You can make them all black, or anything you want with inside of our program. So we want to be able to take that from the beginning of the pipeline and all the way in our buckets and start moving those along our buckets. And you can tie a timeline to each one of those if you want. So again, we make it really easy to add those timelines to your deals. Now you can use projects for many things. You can use projects for deals that are for sale, for lease, or landlord rep. And then again, as we're going through and we're building that process, we can start keeping track of any new requirements that are coming by. So as we're calling our clients in a constant effort, remember there are definitely fields within inside of your program, like I've showed you here, that then you're able to put into those requirements. As you get those requirements, whether it's tenant requirements or investor requirements, it will then allow you to be reminded when it's a good time to follow up with that client. Similarly, if you have a property with a note expiration date, maybe you want to put a timeline on that to contact the client every 30 days, 90 days, or even post-transaction and update them with a valuation. You're able to do that within inside of our program. Now, as everything is tied to a contact, a company, when you tie that information into a project, it can do a couple things. which is really awesome, that you're able to take your client, Antonio, who you're listing a property for, and you're able to give them the Gantt chart of all the things I'm going to do for you. You're also able to create a nice report of all the activity. Now, this is all the marketing activity, from phone calls to meetings to tasks, emails, and so forth. Some of these might be tied into a timeline, and some of these might not be tied into a timeline. So what's nice about this is it creates a pie chart for you. You can add your logo and colors on it, and you can track things that are outside of the timeline. So these in here will keep track of all your activities. It'll keep track of sign calls, meetings, tasks, sent and received emails you can tie in there, and so forth with inside of our program. Now, in regards to the timeline, most of you have probably never seen this before, but there's a timeline report. Timeline report's really neat. Now, I do quite a few demos, so I have quite a few timelines that are attached to 1, 2, 3 Anywhere. But some people want to see where we're at in the process. Darren hired me. His property is going under escrow. I created an escrow timeline. So now I can come over here and I can send Darren an updated report that shows everything that's been completed. So as the timeline is being enacted and as you're going through it, you can see everything you've done here and you can print it out. It'll also show in your history in your dashboard, but maybe you want to see if your cadences are paying off. Are you able to move those clients in different buckets? Are your prospecting timelines working? Are your different staging events working? This is a great way to see that. Some people love to print things out and just kind of look at it and say, okay, well, here's some of the things I can change in my timeline, and this is a great way to do it. And all this is done so we can generate commissions and we can go ahead and we can close more deals. And here's a simple commission report with inside of our program. So a lot of people come to me and say, okay, that's great. So what about other integrations and other things with inside of our program? If I make a phone call, will it record and tie into those activities? If I go ahead and send an email, can that tie into activities? And of course it can. So let's take our timeline, for example, that we have in here for Antonio. Inside of here, we have a cadence. Again, we're trying to establish a business development. So we're going to notate that every 3 months, we're going to call Antonio, and then we'll try to set a meeting for the renewal option. So for any of these things that we need to do, it's going to let us know whether it's a meeting, a task, we need to send them an update, a phone call, or an email. If it says for you to do an email, you'll be able to grab that from the dashboard. Then you can simply go and check the box, and now you can go ahead and send an email. You also notice that a button here has come up already. It says SMS campaign. I can text message Antonio right through here using the RingCentral app. So mine is connected through here. It's going to ask me to authorize a couple things every time I log in just for security. I'm going to accept it for my emergency calling. And now I can go ahead and send an SMS campaign. It will also record that SMS, or as we like to know it, as a text message. So maybe you make a phone call on day 1, on day 15, you send a text message, on day 30, you send an email. And again, this could be for winning business and closing deals, or closing deals or after closing deals. We also have full email campaigns through the Real Campaign section. We have the ability to create a custom domain. You can use our sub-masking domains where the email would look like it comes from Edward Myers and from you, but it would still be coming out of our domain. That's perfectly fine. You'll get lots of opens, clicks, and opt-outs. You can go ahead and you can use one of our templates that are built into our program. If you have a marketing team and your marketing team makes a beautiful email, no problem. You can create a beautiful email just like this right here. And all you have to do is click on the source code and you can copy and paste any of the information right inside the program there. So now you can go ahead and do that. Now, if you have different phone systems, so maybe utilize Google, or maybe use some other kind of phone call, we integrated with basically most click to dial programs that have a Chrome plugin. So if you're a Google subscriber, Google should work automatically. You should be able to just click here. And when you click here, it's going to pull up what we call a call timer Typically, we'll pull in here. This is where a subject, and you can put this as for a cold call. This event type, again, depending on if you're in a timeline or not, it'll bring up the event for you. If you're not in a timeline and you're just giving yourself a task to make that cold call or follow up, you just type in that subject. If you want it tied to an assignment, all you do is type in what that assignment is right here, and then it's calling. And now it's making that phone call. And if you want to, you can easily transcribe using voice dictation right inside of our program. And the idea is to set these timelines up now so you don't have to worry about anything later when you get busy. And when you come back in and going, oh, I don't have anything else to do, your dashboard's full with all the things that you need to do. And if you have too many things to do, then it's time to go ahead and scale up and let's add some more people in there. So we really want to make sure you're setting those stages and events. We want to make sure that you're following up properly and you're creating those lead buckets in that section, so then we can go ahead and manage that timeline and area. You'll also notice that one of the other things that I have inside of my profile for my clients with inside of here is you'll see that I have a client rating. So I might not want to create hundreds of timelines for each prospect. So let's say Haley has 100 clients she's going after, or 1,000 clients, or Matt, my market's huge, there's 10,000 clients. Well, market's too big for you. You should probably scale it down a bit. But you're ambitious and you want to make 50 phone calls or 100 phone calls today. Is a timeline a good time to use that? No, probably not. Okay. There's other ways that we can do it with different lead buckets, and I'll show you how to do that here in a few minutes. But client ratings is another way that I do things to eliminate some of those timelines. And what I'll do is I'll simply go ahead and right click just on my name, and I'll say add event, and I'm going to say call a client. Okay, you got to type better than I do. And then it's going to be a phone call, and I'm going to make it reoccurring, and I'm going to say I want it monthly, and it's never going to end, and I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to hit OK. And then that's going to remind me to call my A clients every 30 days. I don't need a timeline for that. I don't need, 100 events. All I need to do is come in here. There's my list. I can go ahead and click filter, A clients, and now I'm able to manage that process so I can get in front of those clients and so forth. And I wanted to differentiate that because I think a lot of people are going to go, wow, this is cool. I have 1,000 people in my market. I'm going to create a timeline for each one of them, and then you're going to have 1,000 events, and I'm going to have to get you a box of tissues. We don't want that. We want you to be able to manage your day-to-day activities, but when things get busy, we don't want those to fall behind. And each one of those timelines can be assigned to a contact, a company, a property, a comp, or anything else within inside of our program. And you can see in here that I got to call my A clients. No problem. I'm going to go ahead and finish that. And when I go ahead and finish that with history, it'll show in my history side in there. And if it's tied to any of my assignments, I'll have that right in there. Jeff, how are we doing on time?
We are right on it. So any questions? Anything else to wrap up, Matt? I think you've hit the highlights. So
yeah, so there's a couple things I'd like to just talk about for a quick second. One is timelines can be created for anything. Remember that. They can be prospecting timelines, they can be renewal timelines, they can be post-transaction, they can be prior transaction.
Well, Matt, why don't you actually show how to build? I think you showed once they were built, but maybe just show the, and not just the automated build, but how someone can build themselves. I think a lot of things won't be in our automated builder, but they may have some ideas on things that they'd like to put into a sequence and how easy it is to create.
Yeah, first thing you want to do is you want to write down your timeline. Just write it down on a piece of paper. Some of you may use crayons, Darren. So just pull out some crayons, put it down on paper, and you're going to say hit add new template. In here, we're going to call this the Matt's template. Actually, let's just call this something we would. Post-transaction tenant assignment. Okay, now I'm going to hit save. The reason I like to go ahead and have you do that ahead of time, and let's see here, where is it? Post-transaction tenant assignment. So here it is. And now I'm going to click edit template flow. Okay, so I have nothing here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a series of events. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a phase. This is going to be my thank you first year. Now, I see orange every single day, all day long, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to blue, bluish purple. Okay. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to click add event. Okay. Call to say thank you. And then I'm going to say that this is going to start in 30 days. Or you know what, let's just do it in 15 days. 15 days is easier. Duration.
So the idea here, just to be clear, is whenever you're setting a start date, that's from whenever you start the timeline, it's going to be an offset date from the beginning of the timeline. So things will start at that day. And if there's a duration of multiple days, it'll be, and that's why Matt's Gantt charts didn't have, bars on them, because they were all points. They were just one day. But if you had a week or 2 weeks or a month-long process, that would show the full duration of that process.
There's also another thing to point out too. It says timeless. And timeless means that this can be done anytime. And I would say most of your timeline events should be timeless, unless there's something that is needed to be done at a certain time. Most of the time it's going to be timeless. Include the scheduler in the event, yes. Alarms, I try to stay away from unless it's something important, like remove contingencies or something like that. And then all you do is hit save, and then you're going to go ahead and create your next one.
Well, sorry, Matt, just to go back again, I think because it's another critical aspect of this is you can create a timeline that tells you what to do, but if you had 5 people on your team, you can assign different tasks to different people on the team and then manage that in the delivery. So you know what Jeff's supposed to do, you know what Matt's supposed to do, you know what everyone is supposed to do, and then say, hey, Matt, did you do the follow-up call you were supposed to make yesterday? And he'll say, yep. And so it's checked off and done. So it's great for teamwork, collaboration, and management.
Yeah, and then all you do is drag them and drop them down here, and then you can add them right into your section, and then keep adding phases if you want to add phases. It's that simple. And then you can create.
I think it's great. A lot of things are broken up into components, but if you just have 12 things that you need to do 12 things. If there is a beginning, middle, and end, then set up the phases for it. It helps you organize. And also from that presentation standpoint to a client, it helps to make it, or from a marketing standpoint. And or also if it's a large timeline, to have it from an organizational standpoint.
And the key about this is right in the title of it, process-driven approach. We want to have a process-driven approach on how to do things. And if we have a process and we follow it each day, it becomes a habit. And we want to have a good habit. And a lot of times people say, Matt, I've gotten busy and I've slacked off using the program. And timelines will allow you so you don't slack off and go, where's my paycheck today? Everything's coming in constantly. Sorry, guys, I got all excited going over timelines because I think they're one of my favorite things ever because it keeps me on track. It keeps us on track with the San Diego Chargers and so forth. So I did not ask people to raise their hands and engage more on this. Most of you are fully engaged with asking questions and so forth. But from creating the timelines to managing your pipeline and managing your leads and moving them through bucket to bucket, utilizing the email integration, especially with the HTML copy and paste from your marketing team, and getting into pipeline forecasting, managing your commissions, you can do it all within inside of our program. And if you need assistance throughout, we're here to help you. You can contact your local rep, whether that's west, central, or east. There is the guide me in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see that in our program throughout. That is going to have things like system performance survey. We do surveys, and sometimes we have rewards for doing the surveys. It can walk you through if you need to get reorganized with the program. It'll be a hands-on guide and walk you through step by step. We also have a training video library. So if you'd like to watch videos, you can watch videos within inside of our program. So we're always here to make sure we're helping you and staying on track. So if you come in each day and your day's planned for you, you don't have to worry what you need to do tomorrow because it's here. And they don't have to worry about whether your client thinks you're doing anything because it's all done in a marketing activity report just right here. And if you want to show your team how hard you've been working, there's all your activities that you said you're going to do, and those are all the activities that your team has done. And
Matt, you went right into it. It was one of the questions about what training is provided. So you showed a lot of the onboard training, but we also just completed a second in a series of boot camps that we've rolled out. So be on the lookout for the next. We're going to start in September 12th, I believe it is. We'll have another round of boot camp training, which is not just RealNex training, and it's going to be great RealNex training, but it's with our partner at One More Deal. So it's going to be applied business development and winning strategies for commercial real estate, and how you use RealNex to implement those proven best practices from a business standpoint from commercial real estate. So applied training with RealNex. We've got a foundational course that we've done now twice. We're going to start adding on more advanced programs with that. So be on the lookout for that and join us if you can. And I think that'll be terrific. There's another question about were timelines saved in Gmail? And yeah, I think you did address that if you're set up to sync with Gmail or you're set up to sync with Outlook, the calendar events will sync and go back and forth. So you just have to set up your synchronization.
Yep, all of it's there, from timeline to establishing a business development pipeline with projects, creating managing opportunities, running those managing engagement, client reporting. Just remember, everything just comes down to a process. And if you're not sure about how to create a timeline, feel free to email me, msmith@realnex.com, or what's an example of a timeline. I'll give you an example of mine. I'm sure Kevin and Jen have examples as well. We're here to help you to do that. And if you have any questions afterwards, we're around, and we appreciate everybody coming on today. And hopefully I went slow enough for everybody to follow along at home. And we can't thank you enough for your business, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.